Hello, this is Rabbi David Abramson. Simchat Purim, Happy Purim, and welcome to our virtual Megillah reading. We'll be chanting parts of the Megillah and reading parts in English and singing some Purim songs as well. Let's begin now with chapter 1. Vayihi b'mei Achashverosh, hu Achashverosh, hamolech mihod uviad kush, sheva v'esrim umeya medina, bayamim hahem, kishevet hamelech Achashverosh, al kisei malchuto, asher b'shushan habira. Bishnat shalosh lemocho asa mishte lechol sarav va'avadav chel paras umadai hapartemim v'sarei hamedinot lefanav. And so we've met at least one of the main characters in the Megillah, King Achashverosh, who likes to eat and drink and likes to party. And sometimes that partying leads to unexpected events. On the seventh day, when the king was merry with wine, he ordered Mehuman, Bizta, Charvona, Bigta, Avagta, Zaitar, Karkas, the 7 eunuchs in attendance on King Achashverosh, to bring Queen Vashti before the king wearing a royal diadem to display her beauty to the peoples and the officials, for she was a beautiful woman. But Queen Vashti refused to come at the king's command conveyed by the eunuchs. The king was greatly incensed, and his fury burned within him. Then the king consulted the sages learned in procedure. What he asked shall be done according to law to Queen Vashti for failing to obey the command of King Achashverosh conveyed by the eunuchs. Thereupon Memuchan declared in the presence of the king and the ministers, Queen Vashti has committed an offense not only against your majesty, but also against all the officials and against all the peoples and all the provinces of King Achashverosh. If it please your majesty, let the royal edict be issued by you, and let it be written into the laws of Persia and Media, so that it cannot be abrogated, that Vashti shall never enter the presence of King Achashverosh, and let your majesty bestow her royal state upon another who is more worthy than she. And so, for refusing to come and parade in front of the king and his drunken guests, Queen Vashti is exiled. Chapter 2. Sometime afterward, when the anger of King Achashverosh subsided, he thought of Vashti and what she had done and what had been decreed against her. The king's servants who attended him said, "Let beautiful young virgins be sought out for your majesty. Let your majesty appoint officers in every province of your realm to assemble all the beautiful young virgins in the fortress of Shushan, in the harem under the supervision of Hegeh, the king's eunuch, guardian of the women. Let them be provided with their cosmetics, and let the maiden who pleases your majesty be queen in place of Vashti." The proposal pleased the king, and he acted upon it. Ish Yehudi haya b'Shushan habira, ushmo Mordechai, ben Yair, ben Shim'i, ben Kish, ish Yemini, asher hogla mirushalayim, im hagola asher hoglata, im Yechonya melech Yehuda, asher heglaha Nebuchadnezzar melech Bavel. Vayihi omein et Hadassah, hi Esther bat Dodo, ki ein lach avaim, v'hana'ara yefat to'ar, v'tovat mar'eh, uvmot aviha v'imach, L'kachach Mordechai lo levat. And so we have met two new main characters, Mordechai, a Jew who is among the Jews who have been exiled to Shushan, and his young cousin, whom he is raising as his foster daughter, whose name is Hadassah, but who is also known as Esther. When the king's order and edict was proclaimed, and when many girls were assembled in the fortress Shushan under the supervision of Haggai, Esther too was taken into the king's palace under the supervision of Haggai, guardian of the women. Esther did not reveal her people or her kindred, for Mordecai had told her not to reveal it. Every single day, Mordecai would walk about in front of the court of the harem to learn how Esther was faring and what was happening to her. Esther was taken to King Achashverosh in his royal palace in the 10th month, which is the month of Tevet, in the 7th year of his reign. The king loved Esther more than all the other women, and she won his grace and favor more than all the virgins. So he set a royal diadem on her head and made her queen in place of Vashti. At that time, when Mordecai was sitting in the palace gate, Bigtan and Teresh, two of the king's eunuchs who guarded the threshold, became angry and plotted to do away with King Achashverosh. Mordecai learned of it and told it to Queen Esther, and Esther reported it to the king in Mordecai's name. The matter was investigated and found to be so, and the two were impaled on stakes. This was recorded in the Book of Annals at the insistence of the king. And now we continue with a Purim song, Ani Purim. Ani Purim, sameach umvadeach, halo rak pa'am bashana avo lehitareach. La 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la. We're about to start chapter 3, where we will meet another character in the Megillah. His name in Hebrew is Haman. His name in English is Haman. You know he's the main villain of the story, and you also know what we're supposed to do during the reading of the Megillah when we hear the name of Haman. If we were together in one of the synagogues at the Hebrew home, we'd all have groggers, but I'm quarantined in my home here, and I don't have a grogger here. But I have the next best thing. I have an iPhone. And in my iPhone, I have an electronic grogger. And so when we hear the name Haman during the passages that we'll chant, I'll be sounding my grogger. And as you listen to this, if you have a grogger or some kind of a noisemaker, make noise. And if you don't have a noisemaker, make noise with your voice. Yell, scream, clap your hands, yell boo. That's what we're supposed to do when we hear the name of you-know-who. Chapter 3. Achar hadvarim ha'eleh yidel hamelech Achashverosh et Haman Ben Hamedat ha'agagi vayenasehu vayasem et kis'o me'al kol hasarim asher ito v'chol avdei hamelech asher b'shar hamelech kore'im mishtachavim lehaman ki chen tziva lo hamelech Umordechai lo yichra v'lo yishtachaveh. Vayomeru avdei hamelech asher b'shar hamelech leMordechai madua ata over et mitzvat hamelech vayehi ki omram elav yom vayom v'lo shama alehem vayagidu lehaman Lir'od hayamdu divrei Mordechai, higid lahem asher hu Yehudi. Vayar Haman, ki ein Mordechai korel mishtachaveh lo, vayimale Haman chema. Vayivez be'einav lishloach yad leMordechai levado, higidu lo et am Mordechai, vayvakesh Haman lahashmid et kol haYehudim asher b'chol malchut Achashverosh am Mordechai. B'chodesh harishon hu chodesh Nisan, bishnat shteim esrei lamelech Achashverosh, hipil por hu hagoral lifnei Haman. Miyom liyom umechodesh l'chodesh shnei masar hu chodesh Adar. Well, we've met Haman, we've met the villain of the story, and we've seen his path crossed with Mordechai's, with the path of the hero of the story. Mordechai, because he is a Jew, will not bow down to Haman, and Haman is incensed. At first, he decides he wants to kill Mordechai, but then when he realizes it's because Mordechai is a Jew that he won't bow down to Haman, Haman decides to kill all of Mordechai's people. He decides to kill the Jews, and he casts lots, known in Hebrew as por, and he chooses the date on which he is going to kill all of the Jews. Haman then said to King Achashverosh, there is a certain people scattered and dispersed among the other peoples in all the provinces of your realm, whose laws are different from those of any other people, and who do not obey the king's laws, and it is not in your majesty's interest to tolerate them. If it please your majesty, let an edict be drawn for their destruction, and I will pay 10,000 talents of silver to the stewards for deposit in the royal treasury. Thereupon the king removed his signet ring from his hand and gave it to Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the foe of the Jews. And the king said, the money and the people are yours to do with as you see fit. Accordingly, written instructions were dispatched by couriers to all of the king's provinces to destroy, massacre, and exterminate all the Jews, young and old, children and women, on a single day, on the 13th day of the 12th month, that is, the month of Adar, and to plunder their possessions. The couriers went out post-haste on the royal mission, and the decree was proclaimed in the fortress of Shushan. The king and Haman sat down to feast, but the city of Shushan was dumbfounded. And now let's sing an old, and I hope familiar Purim song, A Wicked, Wicked Man. Oh, once there was a wicked, wicked man, and Haman was his name, sir. He would have murdered all the Jews, but they were not to blame, sir. Oh, today will Mary, Mary be. Oh, today will Mary, Mary be. Oh, today will Mary, Mary be, and Nash some Hamantashen. And Esther was the lovely queen of King Achashverosh. When Haman said he'd kill us all, oh my, how he did scare us. Oh, today will Mary, Mary be. Oh, today will Mary, Mary be. Oh, today will Mary, Mary be, and Nash some Hamantashen. But Mordecai, her cousin bold, said, what a dreadful chutzpah! If guns were but invented now, this Haman I would shoot, sir. Oh, today will Mary, Mary be. Oh, today will Mary, Mary be. Oh, today will Mary, Mary be, and Nash some Hamantashen. When Esther, speaking to the queen of Haman's plot, made mention, ha ha, he said, oh no he won't, I'll spoil his bad intentions. Oh, today will merry, merry be, oh, today will merry, merry be, oh, today will merry, merry be, and nash some hamintashen. The guest of honor he shall be, this clever Mr. Smarty, and high above us he shall swing at a little hanging party. Oh, today will merry, merry be, oh, today will merry, merry be, oh, today will merry, merry be, and nash some hamintashen. Of all his cruel and unkind ways, this little joke did cure him. And don't forget, we owe him thanks for the jolly feast of Purim. Oh, today will merry, merry be. Oh, today will merry, merry be. Oh, today will merry, merry be, and nash some hamintashen. Chapter 4. When Mordecai learned all that had happened, Mordecai tore his clothes and put on sackcloth and ashes. He went through the city, crying out loudly and bitterly, until he came in front of the palace gate, for one could not enter the palace gate wearing sackcloth. Thereupon Esther sent word to Mordecai to learn the why and wherefore of it all. And Mordecai told all that had happened to him, and all about the money that Haman had offered to pay into the royal treasury for the destruction of the Jews. Esther feared approaching the king because, as she explained, I have not been summoned to visit the king for the last 30 days. Vayomer Mordechai lahashiv el Esther al tedami v'nafshech Limalet Beit HaMelech Mikol HaYehudim Im HaCharesh Tacharishi Ba'ed HaHu Revach V'Hatzala Ya'amod LaYehudim Mimakom Acher Ve'at Uveit Avich Tovedu Umi Yodea Im Le'ed Kazod Hagat Lamalchut. Vayomer Mordechai lahashiv el Esther. Al tedami v'nafshech limalet Beit HaMelech mikol haYehudim. Ki hacharesh tacharishi ba'et hazod. Revach v'hatzala ya'amod laYehudim mimakom acher ve'at uveit avich tovedu umi yodea im la'et kazot haga'at lamalchut. Vatomer Esther lashiv el Mordechai. לכנוס את כל היהודים הנמצאים בשושן וצומו עליי ואל תאכלו ואל תשתו 3 ימים לילה ויום כי אני ונערותי עצום כן ובכן אבוא אל המלך אשר לא חדד וכאשר עבדתי. Chapter 5. On the 3rd day, Esther put on royal apparel and stood in the inner court of the king's palace, facing the king's palace, while the king was sitting on his royal throne in the throne room, facing the entrance of the palace. As soon as the king saw Queen Esther standing in the court, she won his favor. What troubles you, Queen Esther? The king asked her. And what is your request? Even to half the kingdom it shall be granted you. If it pleases your majesty, Esther replied, let your majesty and Haman come today to the feast that I have prepared for him. The king commanded, tell Haman to hurry and do Esther's bidding. So the king and Haman came to the feast that Esther had prepared. That day Haman went out happy and lighthearted. But when Haman saw Mordecai in the palace gate, and Mordecai did not rise or even stir on his account, Haman was filled with rage at him. Nevertheless, Haman controlled himself and went home. Then his wife Zeresh and all his friends said to him, "Let a stake be put up 50 cubits high, and in the morning ask the king to have Mordecai impaled on it. Then you can go gaily with the king to the feast." The proposal pleased Haman, and he had the stake put up. Chapter 6. Balilah nadada shnat hamelech vayomer lehavi et sefer hazichronot divrei hayamim vayunikraim lifnei hamelech vayimatzei chatuv asher hikid Mordechai al biktana vateresh Shnei sarisei hamelech mishomrei hasaf asher bakeshu lishloach yad bamelech Achashverosh. Vayomer hamelech manasa yekar ugdula lemordechai al zeh. Vayomeru narei hamelech misharetav lo nasa imo davar. Vayomer hamelech mi bechatzir v'haman ba lachatzar beit hamelech achitzona lemor lamelech litlot et Mordechai al ha'etz asher hechin lo. Vayomeru na'arei hamelech elav hinei Haman omed bechatzer vayomer hamelech yavo vayavo Haman vayomer lo hamelech Malasot beish asher melech hafetz bikaro vayomer Haman bilibo lehemi yachpotz hamelech lasot yikar yoter mimeni vayomer Haman El hamelech ish asher hamelech chafetz bikaro yaviu levush malchut asher lavash bo hamelech v'sus asher achav alav hamelech asher nitan keter malchut v'rosho v'naton halevush v'hasus Al yad ish misarei hamelech hapartanim v'hirbishu et ha'ish asher hamelech hafetz bikaro v'hirkivuhu al hasus birchov ha'ir v'kara'u lefanav ye'aseh la'ish asher hamelech hafetz bikaro. Quick then, said the king to Haman, get the garb and the horse, as you have said, and do this to Mordecai the Jew, who sits in the king's gate. Omit nothing of all you have proposed. So Haman took the garb and the horse and arrayed Mordecai and paraded him through the city square, and he proclaimed before him, "This is what is done for the man whom the king desires to honor." Let's continue with another Purim song that you might know from long ago. In Shushan long ago. Oh, Haman was a high and mighty buff in Shushan long ago. He ordered Mordecai to take his derby off in Shushan long ago. So we sing, so we sing, so we sing and raise a row. For Haman he was swinging while Mordecai was singing in Shushan long ago. But Mordecai sat and laughed in his face in Shushan long ago. So Haman swore he'd exterminate his race in Shushan long ago. So we sing, so we sing, so we sing and raise a row. for Haman he was swinging when Mordecai was singing in Shushan long ago. Oh, Esther was a timid little maid in Shushan long ago. But Mordecai told her she needn't be afraid in Shushan long ago. So we sing, and raise a row. For Haman he was swinging while Mordecai was singing in Shushan long ago. So she went to the king and she gave him a smile in Shushan long ago. The king, he liked her manner and her style in Shushan long ago. So we sing, and raise a row. For Haman he was swinging while Mordecai was singing in Shushan long ago. Ahasuerus was a jolly little king in Shushan long ago. He ordered Haman to take a little swing in Shushan long ago. So we sing, and raise a row. For Haman he was swinging while Mordecai was singing in Shushan long ago. Chapter 7. Vayavo Hamelech v'Haman lishtod im Esther Hamalka. Vayomer Hamelech leEsther gabayom hasheni lemishtei hayayin. Ma she'elatech Esther Hamalka v'tinaten lach uma bakashatech ad chatzi hamalchut vate'az. Vatan Esther Hamalka vatomar im matzati chen beinecha hamelech v'im hamelech tov tinaten li nafshi b'she'elati v'ami b'vakashati. כי נמכרנו אני ועמי להשמיד, להרוג ולאבד, ואילו לעבדים ולשפחות נמכרנו והחרשתי, כי אין הצער שווה בנזק המלך. ויאמר המלך אחשוורוש, ויאמר לאסתר המלכה, מיהו זה ואיזהו אשר מלאו ליבו לעשות כן. ותאמר אסתר, איש סהר ואויב, המן הרע הזה. והמן נבעד מלפני המלך והמלכה. והמלך קם בחמתו ממשתה היין אל גינת הביתן, והמן עמד לבקש על נפשו מאסתר המלכה, כי ירא כי חלתה אליו הרעה מאת המלך. והמלך שב מגינת הביתן אל בית משתה היין, והמן נופל על המיטה אשר אסתר עליה. ויאמר המלך, הגם לכבוש את המלכה, אמי בבית, הדבר יצא מפי המלך ופני המן חפוי. ויאמר חרבונה אחד מן הסריסים לפני המלך, גם הנה העץ אשר עשה המן למרדכי אשר דיבר טוב על המלך, עומד בבית המן גבוה 50 אמה. ויאמר המלך תלו עליו. ויתלו המן על העץ אשר הכין למרדכי, וחמת המלך שככה. Well, we're not at the end of the story yet, but we're on our way to a happy ending. Mordecai wasn't killed and impaled on a stake. Rather, Haman was killed and impaled on the very stake that he had prepared for Mordecai. Let's sing this song that is familiar to you in Hebrew. I don't remember singing it or hearing it sung in English, but the English translation is, "They have devised schemes, but they have been foiled. They have hatched plots, but they have not prevailed, for God is with us." Utsu etza v'tufar, dabru davar v'lo yakum. Utsu etza v'tufar, dabru davar v'lo yakum, ki Immanuel. Utsu etza v'tufar, dabru davar v'lo yakum, ki Immanuel. Utsu etza v'tufar, dabru davar v'lo yakum. Utsu etza v'tufar, dabru davar v'lo yakum, ki Immanuel. Chapter 8. Then King Achashverosh said to Queen Esther and Mordecai the Jew, "I have given Haman's property to Esther, and he has been impaled on the stake for scheming against the Jews. And you may further write with regard to the Jews as you see fit. Write it in the king's name and seal it with the king's signet, for an edict that has been written in the king's name and sealed with the king's signet may not be revoked." Umordechai yatsa milifnei hamelech, bilvush malchut techelet vachor, va'ateret zahav gedolah, v'tachrich butz v'argaman, v'ha'ir Shushan tsahala v'samecha. Layehudim hayta ora v'simcha, v'sason v'hikar. Mordecai left the king's presence in royal robes of blue and white, with a magnificent crown of gold and a mantle of fine linen and purple wool. And the city of Shushan rang with joyous cries. The Jews enjoyed light and gladness, happiness and honor. Uvchol medina umdina, uvchol ir va'ir, mekom asher devar hamelech v'dato magia, simcha v'sason layehudim, mishte v'yom tov, v'rabim me'amei haaretz mityahadim, ki nafal pachad hayehudim aleihem. And now chapter 9. Vayaku haYehudim bechol oyevehem, makat cherev vehereg ve'avdan, vaya'asu v'soneihem kirtzonam, uvshushan habira, haragu haYehudim ve'abed chamesh meot ish. Vayichtov Mordechai et hadvarim ha'eleh, vayishlach sifarim el kol haYehudim, asher b'chol medinot hamelech Achashverosh, hakarovim v'harachokim, lekayem aleihem lihyot osim. Eid Yom 14 lechodesh Adar, ve'eid Yom 15 bo, v'chol shana v'shana. Kayamim asher nachu vahem haYehudim me'oyevehem, v'hachodesh asher nepach lahem miyagon l'simcha, ume'evel l'yom tov, la'asot otam, yemei mishte v'simcha, umishloach manot ish l'reyehu, umatanot la'evyonim. Chapter 10. Vayasem hamelech Achashverosh mas al haaretz v'yeh hayam v'chol ma'asei tokpo ugvurato ufarashat gedulat Mordechai asher gidelo hamelech Halohem ketuvim al sefer divrei hayamim lemalchei madai ufaras ki Mordechai hayehudim mishne lamelech Achashverosh v'gadol layehudim v'ratzui l'rov echav noresh tov le'amo v'dover shalom lechol zar'o. And now we surely have reached the happy ending. The endangered Jewish community facing possible annihilation has been saved. The enemies of the Jews have been destroyed. And the Jews now celebrate not only at the conclusion of the story, but the following year and the following year and the following year and every year, including this year. We observe them as Yemei Mishteh v'Simcha, days of feasting and merrymaking, u'mishloach manot ish l'reyehu, and giving mishloach manot, gifts of food, one to another, u'matanot la'evyonim, and gifts to the poor. And so as we have now for thousands of years, we celebrate our liberation from dangerous circumstances by reminding ourselves that it is ultimately the cohesiveness of the Jewish people that saved us in Shushan so long ago, and that will save us into the centuries to come. And so we actualize this theme of interdependence by gathering in person when we're able to, and gathering in virtual form when we must, and sending mishloach manot to one another and gifts to the poor. These have been the ways in which we have celebrated Purim for centuries. This is the way we celebrate Purim this year, and God willing, for many, many years to come. And so once again, I wish you Simchat Purim, a happy and meaningful Purim.